Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Locked In Stitches. Now, just let me wait and see if I... Good evening,
oh, yes,
everybody.
I can hear. Okay. That is all I need to know, and then I can come through and... Okay, yes, that did work. Oops. Damn camera. Okay. Hi everyone, how are we going? As always, I am Julie Hall. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. So sorry about last week. Did anybody else find that with the whole Australia Day thing, it just made the week feel really weird and disconnected? I was just absolutely everywhere, and we were sitting down for dinner, and we were, the waiter came and took our order, and the words were, you know, "And how are you doing on this fabulous Thursday evening?" And I got this look of horror. But I did have a lovely night out with my beautiful husband. We celebrated 21 years of marriage. So, you know, and I did have somebody ask me what the key to our marital success was. Now, that is basically just because I'm a really sarcastic person. But, yeah, you know, there's always something sort of true about it as well. So, how have you been going? I can see we've got some chatter on here. So, we've got Michelle Reynolds. Thank you for joining us, Michelle. And Denise Casals, thank you. Kathy Oderkirken and Narelle Scott and Helen Cassidy, thank you for coming along. So, this is, of course, the last night, and we are going to watch both last week and this week's classes, including how to make your own wire frame. So do not fear if you do not have the correct size wire frame to make. I will show you. So let's get into it. Next up, we are going to, and I'm actually just going to pop those out of the way there, because the next thing that we are going to do is work with our zipper. Now, we need to mark the center at the top of our main bag piece, and we'll need to mark the center on this piece as well. And then we want to mark the center of our zipper. Now, I'm generally not a huge fan of cutting zipper tape, even notching it out for this, just because it can cause more trouble than it seems. So instead, I'm just going to make that marking with my chalk pen. And what we are going to do is take our quilt clips and we need to, there is one other marking that we need to do, and that is we need to come in about an inch and a half from where that seam line is, so it ends up, actually I've done that incorrectly, so you want to mark up, okay, about 3 centimeters from where that seam line will be, because we don't want the zip to go all the way along. Instead, what we want to do is come through and just stitch to here. And I am gonna mark that with a pin, because the pin is more visible than
and harder to remove at the end of the day than my quilt clips. So I'm going to come through and mark my stitching edges with a pin, and then use quilt clips to hold the rest together. Then I'm going to take my backing. Now, if you want to do this and sew this as one stitch first, stitching the zipper there and then stitching the lining on, that is absolutely fine. But I am going to lazy girl it a little bit along, just because, well, let's be brutally honest, just because we can. So come through, match up all of those seams, and then we are going to stitch between the two pins, and that will be our main zipper insertion. Let's come over to okay, so stitching between our pins, we are going to come straight through. Now I am going to take the pin out there simply because I don't want to accidentally stitch over it. And then again coming right up to where that pin is. The zipper out so that not all of the zipper is in the seam line. So when we get to that end of the seam there, you can actually come through, pull the zipper and continue stitching. Then when we come to the other side and stitch along that side. And back to our workbench. What we're going to do is repeat what we have done along the other side. So taking my my main fabric and matching those seams up, and we know that we go with right sides together, which will be this way right here. And then I just want to then mark up exactly where the pin should go on each side as well. And we're ready to stitch again. So we're right up onto that marking point now, and finish stitching. And then turning our project around, pull the zipper tape down and complete the stitching on this side as well. And what we now have is our bag with our zipper ends. Now, at this stage, I do like to at least move the zipper so that it is a little more, so that it's open in the middle, but still accessible, so that we can start joining everything together. We are going to stitch the sides and our base. Okay, so the trick to the sides is that yes, we do want to sew them, but we don't want to sew the zipper in them, and we need to leave a space for threading the wire frame through later on. So the first thing that we're going to do is come through and lay the bag out with right sides together. And as I do that, I'm then going to come through and pin so that our seams are in the correct position. And what I mean by that is fold it out each side and leave 2 centimeters. So from the start of the lining here, we're going to come 2 centimeters down, and that space will not be stitched because that is where we are going to insert our wire frame later on. So you will stitch between there and there, and between there and there. Now on the other side, exactly the same thing. Now do make sure that we don't catch any of our handles or any of our what else have we got in there, or any of our zipper as you go along. And then come through, mark that 2 centimeters down, and then we'll come over to the machine now. The design has made this really easy for us because we are going to stitch along where we can see that line. And then just stop. So leaving that 2 centimeters. Now I do just want to make sure, because I can feel the side of my zipper there, and I was safe, but I was cutting it close. Okay, on the other side.
Now the foot and plate that I am using at the moment, this is the HP foot, and it's basically the straight stitch foot that comes with the CM17, and I love this for any sort of construction stitching because it just works so well. And then let's come over back to the workbench. In. And to do that, what I need to do is come through and find the center points of my base, and I'm going to do that by matching up those side pieces and then just notching in. So that gives me my center points. I'm going to do the same thing with the base piece, and I'm also going to mark up the base piece as it comes to the ends, because this is what we are going to need for putting everything together. And then it is as simple as, now, as simple as I say it is all about just matching those notches, and then, sure, I had a clip there. And coming through and what we're going to do is we are going to sew between those two seam allowance pieces, and we're going to do that on both sides. So come through, mark up, and we will be stitching right along there between both sides. Okay, let's come over to our and all we're going to do is and this almost becomes a stitch by number sort of a thing, because our pieces are sort of set there for us, our stitching lines. Okay, so that is one side done. Now, I know there are people who will sit there and say, why don't you go around the entire thing? The reason I don't is because I get a better all over effect when I do it this way. If you are, look, probably a better sewer than I, which, you know, please don't think there are not many of you out there. But I like doing it this way because I feel like I've got that little bit more control. Okay, and again, back to our workbench. So the base is now in, and now what we need to do is pull that base out and set up our sides. Again, we want to open that seam allowance because we don't want all of that bulk hanging around. And the other trick that I use here to get great corners is I will come through and I will put just a little bit of a clip into the seam allowance of that corner, and that gives me a much more beautiful squared off finished product. So I'm going to come through and clip both of these into place. And remember, I'm not clipping in the bag itself, I'm only clipping within that seam allowance. So don't get stressed about it, about what it's going to do. Okay. Once we've done that, it is back to the machine. And then the other side. And our main bag base is all in. Now we need to repeat those steps for the lining. The difference being that we need to leave a space in the lining for pulling the bag through. So let's start out matching up those points and marking our halfway points. Then we'll do exactly the same on the pattern piece. And so I still match everything up exactly the same. I still overpin because I don't want anything moving if possible.
But when it comes to sewing along this line, I'm probably just going to sew 1 inch on either side, and then I'll leave the rest as the whole, but the other side will be fully sewn up. So let's come over to and so this side we will fully stitch up. And then on the other side, and I always like to use a locking stitch whenever I have to do anything like this, just to try and keep as much of that fabric together as we can. Okay, now whilst I'm here, let's just come through and I'll do a quick clip there. And then come through the other side. And stitch again. And let's come and have a look at what we've got. Okay, so now comes the always fun birthing of the bag, where we are going to pull the bag inside out. Now this takes some time. I hate doing this one on camera because I always feel so terribly ungainly. Slow and steady really does win the race. Now size-wise, this is one of the smallest bags in the set, and that is the other reason that this does take a little more effort to pull through. If you do end up ripping a seam, that is fine, we can fix it.
Okay. Almost there. And so far I haven't ripped any seams, so yay me. Okay, so this is the time that we come through and we make sure that everything is looking fine. By looking fine, what I mean is when I pull the base of our bag out here, I want to see that those seams are all caught in properly. If any changes need to be made, this is the time that you will go back and do that. Okay, so that's looking good on that side. The lining's all looking fine. So now what we're going to do is come through and now I like the analogy of giving birth to the bag, because kind of when you see this open seam at the end, I kind of feel like that's, you know, how we women feel after we've given birth. We're feeling a little bit raggedy. We're liking how our project is looking all together. We're liking the baby that came out of it, sure, yeah. But at the end of the day, we're just feeling a little bit raggedy. And then we are going to hand stitch that seam closed. Okay, so my stitching is now completed, and in what I'm sure is going to seem like a very strange move, I'm going to poke the bag inside out, and that is because I want to do the top stitching, and the top stitching is always going to look best when the needle is on the top fabric. Now this does take a little bit of effort. But how cute is this bag looking, even from the lining side? Okay, so we are now going to come through, and I'm going to take my quick clips, and I just want to firmly pull that fabric up and away from where it's seated. We also need at this stage to turn and make sure that our seams here are sitting beautifully, because that is going to affect again where the wires go. So come through if need be with an awl and just make sure that everything is sitting properly in those seams. So we're going to do 2 rows of top stitching here. The first one is just to hold the zipper in a nice upright sort of a position, and the second row is going to be to create a channel for our wire frame. Okay, now again I'm back to where these guys are sitting, and I can see there's just some moving around that needs to happen. And all this is the seam allowance isn't sitting flat. So all I'm doing is moving that into place so that it's flat on both sides. Again, this is just one of those little tips that is going to pay off dividends when we are threading that wire through. Okay, let's come over to the machine and we're going to do our first round of top stitch. Now, wherever possible, start your top stitching in an inconspicuous place. And by inconspicuous, for me, I am looking at starting this just onto one side of where our of where that seam is. I don't want to start it right in the center because I want it to firmly capture everything in that. And all I'm doing is stitching and then pulling that fabric around, and at each stage just making sure that everything is sitting flat. Okay, so that is our first row of stitching. Now what we need to do is make a channel so that we can get our wire frame through. So to do that, what I'm going to do is return my project to the hoop, and we are going to make a channel. And what I can tell here is that if I was just to use my foot here, that would not be wide enough. So instead, what I do is line up where the edge of that zipper is, and that's the size of the channel that I'm making. So what you can see
And once we come through and get back to that start point, finish it off with a locking stitch, and then we're ready to turn our bag right side out. Okay, so you can see just how gorgeous this is looking. It is all coming together. We've got our zipper on either side. We've got our handles already on there. The last thing that we need to do, now you could finish your bag right here. You don't have to use handles. That is quite a cute little bag. Nobody will say that that is not a gorgeous effort. But in this instance, we are going to use handles, and we are going to make our own. So this is the one that I have been using in the large version of my wireframe bag, which is fantastic. But I'm doing these in different sizes, and I need to account for that, and I can't always get the right size frame. So instead, what I've done is I've come through and I have purchased from my local hardware shop some 2.5mm wire. Now, I got this from the area in the hardware shop where they keep all of it's for tying up plants. And what I've done is I've come through and I've straightened out, and I've cut a piece the length of the bag top minus about 1/4 inch. So for this 200 by 300 bag, that means my bag, my wireframe is going to be 10.5 inches long. So I've cut that, and then I'm just going to come through and take the edge off it with a little bit of sandpaper. That's not a must do, but I just feel better when I've done that. Okay, the next measurement that we need comes from the base of the bag, and this is how much we are going to be folding that in. And the measurement that we have on that is about 1 nice press pliers, and all I'm going to do is hold that at around about that 1.5 mark, and then turn my wire around. Do the same thing on the other side, and I always like just to remeasure just to see where I'm at. Now, that would have been nicer had I done it both sides that way, but you can see there that I've now got that frame set. Now, you can come through and using a little bit of painter's tape or a little bit of paper tape, masking tape, whatever you've got around, come through and just cover up that end so that
it can't cause any problems. Now for cutting the wire, I did go through my darling husband's shed and grab his wire cutters. So the measurements that we've got so far is we're going to take 1/4 of an inch off the width of the bag. Then we're going to fold down half the length of the base, and then we're going to come through and we are going to feed our bag through. But once you get it started, it's really just about feeding that through. Okay, now just going to push that end through, and what we now have is a frame lock bag. Doing that wireframe yourself, it is so much easier than you think it is, isn't it? Like, it's just an amazing one. Okay, sorry, I've left my okay, so we are back at the start of a new month. Can you believe we are already through January? It is just amazing. So this was January's project. Next up, of course, we are going to go on to February. And February, we are going to do the little manicure set. Now, and I'm just looking at which one, I'm dropping them here as I'm going, has got which in it. So, and I got the tools from either Kmart or eBay or the dollar store. Like, just, you know, think around where you can grab these all from. We are going to do 2 of these. We're going to do one that has the gorgeous artwork on it, and that is part of the design set. And then we're going to do another one where you're either going to use a fabric that you love, such as me and my Barbie fabric, or you can monogram it for somebody, and I'll show you exactly how I do that. The other thing that you might have seen is I've put up that in February we're actually going to do 2 classes looking just at digitizing. So I know it's something that a lot of you have been interested in. Now, I do not mind what software you have. What I want you to look at this for is the concepts of how I'm going around and creating the design, and then go back and do that with your own software. And I will include the artwork that I'm starting from so that you can have a go at doing that. And so that'll be 2 great ones that we are going to do. The last one is I have just put up, just before our class started, a February's Zoom class. So it will be on the 17th of February. It will be the, which one? It will be the one with the design on it. The class is free to go to, but you must have purchased the design before the class. And then that'll just be a really fun, and what I love about the Zoom class, when we did it last time, is not only can you see me, but I can see you. And it's really just a great interactive experience. So hopefully I will be able to see you then. Now I'm just looking here. Oh, okay, yes, Lisa, you definitely need to be making this. The manicure set is for sale. It is on the website right this minute. So do go in, and just as a tiny little sneak peek of coming months, this is a beautiful cut work pillowcase that I have, that I have created, and I've done piping with it as well, which I'm loving. So that is going to be one of the upcoming classes, how to do that beautiful cut work edge. And the other one is, now it's not going to mean a hell of a lot to you, but we have, and you really don't want to know how much time I've spent creating these. We've got these and these and these, and they are going to create a fantastic project that you will not believe. So keep storing up your little scraps of leftover vinyls and corks, because we will be making something really fun and a really great gift for people as well. Okay, yes, Lisa, we will of course be recording it, and I know that most people would want to press pause on me. I totally get that, but no, and I do the same thing. If I'm looking at learning something, I will press pause and then I'll go and do it, and then I'll come back, because it really is a fantastic way to learn. Okay. So that is all I've got for you tonight. Please do share pickies of your bags when you've got them. So over the course of the month, I've done this one, and I've done this one, and I've got the one that I use at work for all my first aid supplies, and then I've got this one as well. And this is the one that I did, and I actually did not put so I did this in the 360 by 260, and I did not put handles on it because I thought it would just make a really nice, like, you know, project sort of clutchy sort of a thing. So that was what I made in the Zoom class the other week. Okay, so thank you for joining us, guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week where we're going to start the manicure set. Until then, have a stitching day, guys. Bye.